Commence primary ignition.
I was the Wampa ice creature in The Empire Strikes Back, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina Network.
And we're live. Make sure we're live on Instagram as well. Let's see here. Is Spencer live?
Hello, Spencer. People. Oh, he's frozen. So
good timing. All right.
Good evening and welcome. And now John is Spencer. And Spencer is
okay. Well, we lost Spencer momentarily, so he'll be back shortly. Hopefully, you can hang out up in the Spencer slot for a second or two, unless Dave wants to correct that.
Got a different Spencer. That's all.
I'm just gonna go make sure we're live on Instagram real quick, and Dave can do some intros.
I'll monkey the round a bit and see if we can't get John in his actual home.
Yeah, if you want to do that, that would be good.
But good evening, people. Everyone joining us is
interesting timing.
Welcome to the technical difficulties.
Indeed.
That's not we're used to that here, though.
Not par for the course, as it were. So, yes, we will be. There we go. Here comes the man.
Yes, he is. Oh, what?
Oh, oh no.
We just fixed it.
There we go. There. Now it's back.
Okay.
And we're back. Let's take two.
I typed in IG and all of a sudden IG disintegrated. Yes, hello there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
We are on IG now.
Cool. I don't know if you guys know how to open, but welcome everybody to the last Virtual Cantina Watch-Along of 2024.
Woo!
Yeah.
It's been really incredible and crazy, and it's been what a strange year. What do you guys think?
I mean, all years that I have are strange in their own ways.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I think it's become sort of normal.
Yes, that exactly.
It's like, was it a normal year? No. Okay, that's the norm.
Well, we've been very busy. Yeah, we've been very busy. We've been very blessed. But first and foremost, writing Chewy tonight, Mr. Jeff. How are you, sir?
Good. Happy everything.
Yes, happy everything. Hope you guys are.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Joyous Kwanzaa. What else you got?
Anything and everything. Let's just
Merry New Year if you want to quote. Oh, we just lost. Did we lose it? Okay, no.
No,
Merry New Year if you're a fan of Trading Places.
Indeed.
Oh yeah.
So, anywho, Dave, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. We are having all kinds of fun here.
As long as it works for the most part, we're good.
We're always having fun here. Yes. Well, I'm very excited to welcome back our guest. Our guest has been on our show at least twice so far, including at a time when we hopped the trek with him, which was such an incredible episode.
And surprisingly, Dave wasn't here.
Dave was very upset with me.
You scheduled the Star Trek watch along with John when I'm not available.
And one of your favorite Star Trek movies of all time.
I know.
We should do Galaxy Quest.
We also,
yeah, that's a good one for sure.
we also had this gentleman not only at our Boonta East Special Edition in San Francisco. Ooh, there you go.
Is that soundtrack or laser disc?
But also at our
Laser disc.
Nice.
That's a laser disc. And we also had this gentleman at our Boonta East Special Edition in Nashville, which was a fun event. And, we got some people in the crowd right now. I think I'm going to get it over with now in case you don't watch it. So with that in mind, I would like to welcome the newest inductee into the Virtual Cantina Hall of Fame, Mr. John Goodson.
Oh, very much. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Very cool.
So we got a nice little plaque here for you, John, and also a very nice trophy. It's a kyber crystal with our logo on it.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Dan, it's kind of a fun little item there.
Yeah.
So,
really
first and foremost, congratulations and welcome, and thank you very much for being part of our family and part of so many of our events, either virtually or in person.
Well, it's fun. I always get a kick out of talking about this stuff, and it's great to be with people that enjoy talking about it too. Because not everybody likes. It's funny. People would come and do the tour at ILM, and most people are pretty blown away, but not everybody. Some people don't care much about it. So
You would not. I mean, that's like walking into Graceland or the Vatican or like.
Yeah, but some people that it just doesn't. They don't. That's not where they are. I don't know. Maybe they're accountants or something. I don't know. Nothing against accountants, but
I'm sure there's Star Wars fans that are right, for sure. That's interesting, though. You'd think anybody who would want to or have the wherewithal to go on the ILM tour would have more of an understanding of what you're going to see or whatever.
But it's weird. Funny. People come in and they're not familiar with almost any of it. It's just a blank. That's like,
just a tourist thing to do or something, right?
Or they knew somebody and they're along for the ride.
There you go.
My uncle wanted me to show some.
I think when I did it, it was very few things. There was a couple of things I was questioning whether or not there's that big Nazi Zeppelin, and I kept on saying that it was from Indiana Jones, and Hal was like, no, that's from the Rocketeer. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's I don't know.
That is from my garage. And it was a replica of the one from Hindenburg or the one from Rocketeer. It's the Luxembourg. DZ-120, I think, or DZ-720, I think, is what's on the side of the little undercarriage thing. But I built that for the hell of it. And then what do you do with the 10-foot Zeppelin? It's like having a canoe. It has lived for the last 25 years. It's just drifted around the Kerner campus. And when that finally closed November before last, we moved it over to ILM because I don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
So it's a replica of the Rocketeer. So, yeah. But
what made you decide to build that?
Well, they put it in a really good spot, that's.
I helped. We hung it there because there were eye hooks there that the Red October used to hang there. So he put it in the same spot. But why did I make that? It's funny because remember Jodie Foster came to the shop one time for a tour, and she was standing next to my desk, and it was hanging over my desk in the model shop, and she said, "So this is yours?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Why'd you make it?" And I said, "I have no rational explanation for that to do." Well, I was intrigued because we had the 33-foot one that we filmed that we blew up twice because we only had one, and when we blew up the first one, it didn't work.
Oh.
And the first one took 8 months to build, and so the second one was built in about 6 weeks with 3 shifts going around the clock. And Steve Golly had the foresight. They didn't want to pay for a second one, but when you're doing pyro, you only do one, man. You are taking a chance because it is so inexact. And so Steve had all the internal framework stuff laser cut in advance because he was afraid that could happen, and that's what happened. The first one didn't work, but they hired somebody. They got somebody on the outside to build one that was like 12 feet long, and the technique they used was they put a pipe down the center of it, and they took door skin, so thin like Luan type material, and they just cut discs and they mounted it down this pipe. And if you look at the Hindenburg, which the Luxembourg's a copy of it, it's divided into stations, and it's like maybe 7 or 8 stations in the first section, and they're a certain distance apart. And then the next set of stations are a slightly different version of that. So I was really intrigued with the whole thing. So I made a gadget that went on the bandsaw where you could cut glue on discs, got a piece of conduit and then paper tube. And I just cut the discs to the diameters of those station marks. And then I cut 4 pieces of paper tubing to those lengths, one on the pipe in the center, and then one at 120 degrees, all three at 120 degrees. So you had 4 points of contact, and that set the spacing to the next disc. So I built this framework up and then built a jig it sat on and just took 1/8-inch spruce stringer and glued that on edge. So it's 320 feet of spruce stringer on the thing. And then skinned it with a material called Solartex, which is what we used on the big one. And that was really interesting. It's a synthetic heat shrink fabric. And you iron it on and it sticks. And then you can take a heat gun and it'll shrink in place. But as soon as we started doing that, the Gulf War started, the military soaked up all of the Solartex. So we weren't sure what we were going to do because we had part of it covered and we didn't have enough material to do the whole thing. We ultimately got enough. And then we took it out to Hamilton Air Force Base, which was a closed base in Nevada, California. And it rode on a cart. And the cart there were 6 openings in the bottom of the Zeppelin. They were all maybe 5 inches by 20 inches. And that's where the cart connected to it. And we said, before you guys load it with the explosives and take it up in the air, they're going to put it up 25 feet. Let us close the bottom because we have to iron these patches on there with an iron. Oh, yeah. So we stopped for whatever the meal is at 2 a.m. We come back from that. It's now 25 feet in the air. It's got 10 black powder and kerosene bombs in it. There's kerosene running out of the holes. So now we got to go up in cherry pickers. I go up in one with a guy named Dave Herron, and Charlie Bailey goes up in one with somebody else. I think Richardson. And with the pyro guy, they gave us these Nomex suits to cover everything but your face and your hands. So your body will still be there, but you won't have face or hands. And the pyro guy says, okay, if you see a flash, you got 5 seconds before the detonation. I'm like, we're up in the cherry picker. And Dave Herron, who was driving the cherry picker I was in, Dave goes, well, if you see a flash, there's a 5-second delay on the cherry picker. We're not going anywhere. I said, so what are we going to do? He goes, well, I guess we jump. And I said, it blows up and falls on us. He goes, I guess so.
Oh, shit.
So,
wow.
In Cinefex, like looking wild-eyed with this iron up there, ironing this thing closed, And my insurance guy saw it and he goes, if you're doing this kind of stuff, I can't insure you. I'm like, okay, I want to So we
that's
went.
wacky.
Well, there are 10 bombs in there. And it was really important that it started at the nose and progressed to the tail because they built full-size sections of it somewhere down in Southern California. And the Rocketeer and his girlfriend are running from the bad guy. Well, so we get out there and we've got 6 high-speed cameras that shoot 300 frames a second. That makes 1 second turn into 12 seconds. Right. And they all have an operator because you got to get up to speed. So it's a lot of stuff to coordinate, And the idea was when number 10 goes off, there was a guy whose job was to cut the wires. The Zeppelin falls out of frame. That was the job. So instead of going 1 through 10, it went 1 and 10, and the guy cut the wires. It fell off. It blew up out of frame.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah, all you saw was flaming debris coming up out of the bottom of the frame. It was like, and the Zeppelin was out of the shot. And in 15 seconds, it was just a rubble pile laying on the ground. And I turned to Dickie Dova, who's a stagehand, and Dickie was there. Dickie's dad was on the Hindenburg. Dickie was there when the Hindenburg came in. He saw it with his own eyes. And I turned to Dickie and I said, is that what was supposed to happen? He goes, oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. and that was it. It was gone. You got like 90 people standing out there in the middle of the night and the thing's vaporized, and we don't have the shot. And it's the big climax of the film. So the second one got built, like I said, 3 shifts going around the clock. Got a second one built. That's the one that made it in the movie.
Wow.
But
I find it hard to believe at this point that, I mean, I understand budgetary concerns, but this story repeats itself over and over. Why do you not just build 2?
Yeah, well, that's
especially nowadays. Nowadays, you can, like you said, if you're laser cutting stuff, you can cut another set almost as easily and as for more cost effectively, and it's like
dicey as hell though, because it takes 6 weeks to build. We had 2 months.
The labor is the thing.
Well, if that second one didn't work, we had 2 weeks left. What are we going to do? So fortunately that worked, but pyro is so inexact. But that's the whole thing about you can pay to do it right or you can pay to do it again, and that's what it turned into. And they said it was a radio interference problem with the remote, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. It made the front of the Wall Street Journal the next day. Why visual effects cost so much money, and it kind of laid out the whole evening. Yeah.
But we want to thank you very much, John, for not only coming out and hanging out with us in San Francisco and had that incredible chat with you and Hal in front of the fountain at the Presidio, but we got to spend some great time with you in Nashville. You had a couple of great panels and
let's see that
and radio interviews. So thank you very much. I hope you had some good times with us as well this past year.
Oh, I totally enjoy this. This is really fun.
Well, we're very glad to have you.
I'm seeing questions.
Yeah, Bruce has got one. It's like in the past, everything was hand built. Does the modern tech, like being able to laser cut it or whatever, make it so much easier, or does it just add another
introduce new problems?
Well, I mean, it's funny because it's kind of, you're doing the same job with slightly different technology, better tools for things, and things advance and get better. I remember when we got the laser cutter and people were really threatened by it because they saw it was going to take their jobs away. And it's like, actually, no, what this does is allows us to do more precise, repetitive stuff that we would really have a hard time doing it. We could mold and cast stuff, but it was a wonderful addition to our tool set. But people really saw it as a threat to begin with, and 3D printing, it's funny because I've kind of been on this thing about 3D printing for a while where I wasn't happy. We used it on Ahsoka and we used a Form 3 printer and it printed beautiful resolution parts, but they were just so brittle. And they just were kind of not durable enough to use on stage, because when you're on stage, when you're going to remount these models, I mean, you're manhandling these things and pulling them out of the mounts, it's very physical. And we had some problems with the Ahsoka ship. The backs of the engines were printed. They were just too delicate. So the Skeleton Crew ship, it was interesting. Skeleton Crew ship is entirely handmade. There might be like 20 model kit parts on there just for detail in, greebly areas. I think there's some near the cockpit. And there are a couple other ones, and a lot of everything else was just hand fabricated. And if I needed duplicates, I molded it and cast it in urethane.
Wow.
So yeah, there's not a single 3D printed thing on it. And
wow.
Yeah, it's very old school.
So how do you do it when you do it old school like that? And if you're not using kit bashed parts, are you making, like the little cardboard rings and this and just additive?
Styrene.
And I've got, the complete evergreen rack. So you got tubes and rods and U-channel and H-channel, you have all these things to work with in different thicknesses. So it's just fabricating it. And one of the things that happens nowadays, on Rogue One, we digitized a bunch of different kit parts that were kind of the greatest hits from Star Wars. So it was a lot of these railgun kits and things like that, Saturn V parts. And so that database exists, but there's no defined scale assigned to those parts, which is kind of unfortunate. Because what I thought, the reason they work so well, the way they were old school, those relationships worked well. Those sizes and things, you had these different sizes. And on Rogue One, if I remember correctly, they scaled them all to be the same size. So when you went to the database, they're all the same size. And I'm like, that's not how they were. And then the other thing they'll do is they'll take a part and they'll lattice it, which is they can put kind of a grid over it and they stretch it and twist it and scale it and do all kinds of stuff to it. And, they'll take the same piece and they might repeat it 10 times, but that's 10 times left and right. So that would be a custom fabrication of 20 of that piece. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I'll approximate, I'll come close in those areas. There'll be something there, but it won't be exactly that. And so we go through this thing when the physical model gets done, then it goes back to ILM, they scan it, they build it, they create a 3D model from that using photogrammetry. And then they kind of bridge the gap to, make the digital one blend in. And it was funny because John Nolan and I just did a bunch of press stuff for Skeleton Crew a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about the fact that every time we shoot one of these miniatures, it helps the look of the digital shots because the miniature is real. When light reflects off of it, it's real. It's not a simulation. It's not a shader. It's the real. So it
informs the artist, right?
Well, and it affects the way that they do the shot. So John said, he said, I'm going to beat my crew until you can't tell the digital model from the practical. I'm like, oh, they're going to love you.
Oh.
And I think they did a great job of getting him to match. But he liked the paint job on the practical so much, they did a whole thing, took the photos of that, mapped that onto the digital model. And it was funny because the paint job on that ship, they had said it's buried for 100 years. And I'm like, okay. So it was painted with house paint with a brush.
Wow.
It's all freehand, because the stripes, they wanted the stripes to be chipped and worn and stuff. I'm like, not a problem. So,
Yeah.
And then it was funny when the guy did the scan, he goes, in his model, you could see the brush strokes in the digital model. I'm like, damn, that's impressive.
That's pretty detailed.
Yeah, it's really something. I mean, it's really interesting. This guy, his name is Declan Young, and he does the scans for him, and he does the models, and it is amazing.
That's got to be a high resolution scanner, right? That
he's doing mostly photogrammetry, but he does a LiDAR. He does a whole variety of things, but that's his specialty, is to roll in, document the hell out of it, and then the next day he's got an incredible high-res digital model. So it's really impressive.
One of the things that impressed me, especially when, after, in that first shot of the Onyx Cinder, which we finally got the name in this last episode. We kept on calling it Onyx Cinder throughout there. We're like, okay, finally got the name. When it finally does its barrel roll from, in the ground to regular size, how much influence it had from not only other Star Wars ships, like, for example, throwing out the Razor Crest in particular. Those parts of it that was like looked very familiar in there, but other ships throughout. It's a throwback to the 80s movies that I know Dave, Jeff, and I, and a lot of us have grown up on. How much was that involved in the concept to make it look somewhat recognizable by its own separate entity and its own characterization?
Well, by the time I get involved with it, generally I might see some concept art that's kind of loose, but what we get when we do the miniature is they will render us the digital they have, and they'll render it 1-to-1 to the size we're going to build it. And so I'm not involved with that early conceptual stuff, but I think Ryan Church is heavily involved with it. Renee Garcia is doing the modeling, a lot of it, Jay Machado. So there's, it's so funny with any of these things, there is a huge pyramid of people underneath any of these things. You see one of these ships and it's like, there's the initial concept, there's the whole evolution of the concept and the number of people that were involved in that, and then the digital model, and and it always, the practical model is always impressive because it's a real thing, it's tangible, you can see it, but there's always this bunch of people behind that to get to that point. And it used to be, now, we used to have the model shop, we used to have several thousand square feet, and we kind of averaged about 60 people in the department. But I remember on Phantom Menace, I think we went up to about 110. But on average, you had people, you had pattern makers, you had mold makers, you had painters, electricians, machinists. You had all these different skill sets that were applied to that. So when you build something like the Enterprise E for First Contact, there are probably 40, 45 people involved in that,
Wow.
in order to make that happen. So I always think it's a little bit unfair whenever people, people are always like, oh, it's this great thing, it's the Razor Crest. I'm like, there's a giant pyramid under any one of these things, of all the people and all the steps it took to get to that point. So, we're lucky that we're on the end where they give us the information and we follow it best we can, with the exception of reproducing all those left-right unique parts. So, yeah, it's interesting because, there are people, this is all they're doing is concept development, and Star Wars.
So when you were putting together the Onyx Cinder, I mean, was there elements of it that you learned from your work on the Razor Crest that contributed to, like, okay, this made sense there, so this makes sense here, etc.?
There is a piece that keeps showing up every single ship. It's the same piece. I'm like, oh yeah, that's that thing. Yep, there it is. So,
well, I mean, the engine pods look relatively similar.
They are similar. They're a little different, but they are very similar. I guarantee you there are some Razor Crest parts in this thing, So, and they've got this digital database of stuff to grab from. So, and that's the thing with the we always called the Onyx Cinder the Ironclad. So when they started talking about Onyx Cinder, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Ironclad. But with the front engine and the back engines, it's the same engine. It's just like 30% smaller at the front. So I handmade one at one scale and then handmade exactly the same thing, 30% bigger. And that's a byproduct of digital design work. It's just easy to scale. It would have been nice to have incorporated something unique to the front ones. It could have been something simple like some shields. Just something that makes it a little different. Exactly the same. So, but That's designing, and there's always a time pressure on this stuff too. So nobody can generally take their time and do everything they want to. It's like you're trying to get it done as quickly as you can, as efficiently as you can. So there's always a lot of pressure on people to produce.
So when it comes to the leeway you get from what they send you as a previs or the working model of the ship to what you produce, is that dependent on camera angles or close-ups or anything like that? Because I'm sure there's going to be a shot that they might want a certain framing for that would be dependent on, some of those details that have been applied to the ship.
That's it's usually a conversation with John Knoll, and it ties into, we have we got a 50-foot track. We have a model mover that, the model mover pitches and rolls the model, and maybe, and occasionally it'd have a turntable underneath it so the model could rotate. But the model doesn't do much. All the movement is the camera going down the track.
It's like the Dijkstraflex kind of thing, right?
It's the same kind of thing, and it's like, I remember there's a shot on season 2 of Mandalorian where we had the light cruiser, and they had the camera fly between the bridge and the gun. I'm like, well, the camera ain't gonna go through there. The SLR body and the gap up there is maybe 5 inches. The camera body is probably like 7. And so we got as close as we could, and actually had an incident where the camera did ram the model. But it was one of those things. Well, it was the camera went crazy, and I remember that model was 5 feet long. It was big, and it was just this pipe rig that was a bunch of sandbags and apple boxes. It was just this monstrosity we created that was enough to hold it. And I remember when the camera was doing this, I grabbed the camera with my right hand and grabbed the ship with my left hand and lifted the ship.
Oh, so gee,
it went went underneath it, but it was like
protect the model for sure.
Well, it was like you could see what was happening, and what had happened was there's a rubber belt that stretched down this 50-foot track, and it's held at either end with a clamp. And there's a gear on the camera, which is that it tracks that belt. The belt came off at one end. So what happened was the thing was sucking the belt up.
Oh, no.
And it went from going very slow to very fast.
It's like a rogue garage door opener.
It was, you could see what was coming. It did hit it, but it was able to separate them so that it didn't damage anything.
Well, it's good they didn't blow through the actual model. That would have been
interesting
an issue, I'm sure.
If it would have stopped. But yeah, we've been fortunate. We haven't had any real catastrophes. We did back, in the day at ILM. We had cameras would hit models a lot.
Oh yeah.
You get a call from the stage. Hey, you got to come over here. I remember one day it was like the DeLorean, this like 6 scale model or whatever it was, 5th scale, and the camera had hit the hood it was going towards the steering wheel and just dug this trench in the hood. Just it's like, oh my God, Or I remember Biff's Hotel, Back to the Future 2, they drove the camera through that. They drove the camera through the space dock on Generations. There's a lot of that.
So it's not uncommon. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, those cameras don't know that other stuff's there, and they're just giant robots, and they'll just drive right on through. So. They're
doing the movement that they are thinking they're supposed to do, whether that's what you intended or not.
Yeah. It can be. I remember on Peter Pan, we had Captain Hook's ship, and it was set up on a mover. It was set up on a platform, and the ship was about 22 feet long, with the full rigging and all that stuff. And it's on this platform, and the platform is better so that it could roll the ship like this. And one of the dials got turned all the way over, and when they turned the system on, the ship just went wham, like 30 degrees, and just slammed. And we were sitting back about 25 feet from it, sitting on apple boxes. You felt it in the slab, and it broke the ship. I mean, it was just it was so violent. If you'd been standing there, it could have killed you. So yeah, that stuff's kind of scary, pretty powerful. But John's stuff is a lot smaller. So I think you could stop it if you had to. Oh. Thanks, Troy. Fun to talk about.
Yes, we love the behind the scenes stuff. So we're getting close to our start time.
Okay.
So if people want to get their Disney Plus all queued up to episode 5, which was a very this is a heavy episode.
There's a lot going
We've
on.
been joking for weeks now that this is not a kid show, and this episode proved it's not a kid show.
Interesting.
Wow.
The stakes
but yeah,
involved.
please get your Disney Plus all queued up.
Episode
And we'll
5. You have a lot to learn about pirates.
I like the fact that they're utilizing lines from the actual show for the titles.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in one of the earlier ones. It's like, oh, they did the thing. They don't always do the thing.
So
just make sure you're muted over there, John, so that we don't hear anything. Put up your subtitles. We don't want to get kicked off of Facebook. They like to kick us off for musical cues specifically. But
this is interesting. This is an aside.
Oh,
so I bought the Lego.
Wow!
Now,
Yes.
there is a child that can put this together. They need to immediately be given a full scholarship to MIT because this was harder than building the stage model.
Oh, nice!
Wow.
That's good to know coming from the model maker. That's incredible.
That's 300 pages of instructions. I was like, I thought it'd take 45 minutes. It took me 6 hours.
Woo.
Wow!
Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah, we'll have.
I
to
love how it
keep that in mind.
pivots. We had Marty Matula. We had Marty Matulis who plays Vane the pirate. We had Marty Matulis who plays Vane the pirate on. And he was playing with his. It was interesting how like even the turrets, like everything turns and it like manipulates. It goes almost like a transformer. It's really cool. You a Lego.
Yeah, I mean it's got a dial on it, and you can move the engines.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow, that's fun.
Yeah.
Wow. That's got to be a lot involved inside the inner workings.
I was impressed.
Does it come with it needs a little John Goodson minifig though, that's all.
There's blood on it.
Whenever you're ready, Jeff.
Oh my goodness. On that note, we're going to pop up a 10-second countdown, and once that's done, we'll be pressing play on the Disney Plus. So here we go. And don't forget, no skipping of any of the intros. We watch them all. We love our previously ons.
John, did you do any work on the pirate port with all those ships and everything there, or was that all?
That was all digital, and and there's the model in there. That's a nice shot. There's a model in there that Bill George made, and he had made that for fun, and it was a combination of a blockade runner and the Eagle from Space 1999.
Oh,
and that they wound up scanning that and putting that model in that pirate at the pirate asteroid, which is cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Big time Easter egg thing.
Very iconic ship.
Yeah. So what do you think of this show? It's a different feel from the other Disney Plus shows we've been known to have in the last 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier, it's a little terrestrial for me, but I get where they're going with it, and kind of what they're after. But it's been really fun to watch, and the production design is beautiful. So, and it costs so much money to have this much cool stuff. So it's amazing to see how much is on the screen.
Yeah, it's very rich in terms of assets, content.
John Liberty's asking, do you know who kind of would be the one who decides what ships go in that kind of pirate port, the little Easter eggs?
Yeah, I don't know who decides that stuff, and that that could be almost like a committee kind of thing. But they're all.
Keep up the legacy that it's like one guy in a basement that's just like,
I don't think so. But I mean,
you have to refer to George.
it's a group of people that a lot of them have worked together for years and years.
Yeah.
So there's probably almost like a language to all that they're all like, hey, let's do this. Let's put
They
that.
feed off of each other that way, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're probably looking for those things they can put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Eventually,
when you talk about the basement, you talk about Dave. You're talking about the basement. They probably like a knock on the door. Hey, Pablo, what ships haven't we used yet?
Well, I mean, there is a basement, and I can't remember who showed. There was in one of the Behind the Magic shows, there was like a basement office and stuff where they were sneaking things in and doing their work.
So was this Dawn as the as Neil's mom, Spencer?
Yes, it is. Yes. So Dawn played Neil's mom and the Snivian pirate later on.
So she'll be on. Is she on episode 7 or episode 8 with us?
She's in the finale, so she's doing episode 8 with us. We have Tamara.
Yes, on episode 7.
Carlson Woodard joining us.
And we have good old John. Whoops.
Oh, flip it.
I hit it twice. John will be with, or Nick. I'm sorry, not John. John's with us right now. Nick will be with us next week.
Is this the first time you? Yes.
Must be really interesting to have, because for me, I work on the show.
I love this. He's like, show me your hands. Like he's the kid, as opposed to the.
This whole switching hands thing was.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's the fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, we love the all the behind the scenes stuff, from the model makers to the stuntmen. We had Kevin Thompson, who actually was doing dialogue coaching for the children.
They've got to have great stories.
Yeah, so everybody's had amazing stories so far. Yours are amazing as well. So anything that you remember about the production, feel free to drop it in.
Yeah, for me, it's the ship, It's funny. One of the things about that ship, too, was they wanted it covered in dirt. Because of the way it starts off at the beginning. And I kind of had this flashback to Star Trek 6, where the Enterprise gets hit 11 times over the course of the fight. And then when we're shooting it, you don't always shoot in sequence. So we had a map on the wall. I might have told the story before. We had a map on the wall, and each hit was numbered. So you know what the sequence was. And then there was a Polaroid that went with it, which is like a makeup continuity thing, because we'd have to reapply the damage. And so today we're going to shoot with 7 hits. Tomorrow we're only going to have 3. But Friday we got all 11. But then, next Monday we're back to no hits, because it's completely so. And it was really time consuming to deal with this, figuring it out per shot. How many shots have we got? How many do we have to take off or put back on? And so when we started talking about putting dirt on the ship because it was buried, I said, as long as we shoot it in sequence, I don't have a problem with that. Because it was just like I was going to be on and taking dirt off. So I made up a dirt mixture out of drywall mud and temper paint. And it was pretty heavy when we started, and we kept progressively taking it off. We had kind of 3 stages of the dirt getting less and less as we went.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I think this does. Liberty mentions it's like the pig pen from Charlie Brown ship. Every time it hits hyperspace,
you see a little dust cloud.
You see it in the pirate port the first time, and you see like the just dust and dirt off gassing from it.
Like, or if you like, it's that sudden kind of strike thing where you get like little residual things kind of falling off. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, when we started talking about that, I was like, they're talking about tree trunks and things like that.
Oh yeah, that.
Well, I want to take broccoli.
Oh,
yeah. That down and then try and making rubber molds off of it. That does not work well.
That's funny.
It's like
it was very, very, very covered when he in that first scene when it started to lift out of that predicament it was in.
It's like a trip to the model train store to go get all the little train bushes and things.
I bought all kinds of stuff like that, but in the end, it was just the dirt. That was all we did with that. And it still got dirt all over it. I mean,
yeah.
It got mounted at ILM, and unfortunately, they didn't mount it correctly, and they ran the rod through the top of the model.
Mm.
So I had to go over there 2 Fridays ago and fix that and get it mounted correctly. But I hate the picture showing up of it online where it's like this rod sticking on the top. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to look.
Oh,
It's not screen accurate.
Well, I'm like, that's why you call me when you're going to do that, so I can come over and.
At least advise, right?
let's do it right the first time. Why not?
Well,
No.
it's fixed now. It's fixed now. I just wish
There
they
you
might fix it.
Right. Should have been fixed from the get-go.
See, they're not going the way that I thought they were going to go with this.
That's a great one. We talked about that last time, Liberty, is
With the Spencer freezing. That's
What
what
was
we
that,
talked
Dave?
about.
Yeah, sorry, John. We have a frozen Spencer up in the corner.
Oh,
Or in and out Spencer that is either seeing us freeze.
you can't.
There he goes. He's caught up.
There we go.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I don't think any of us talked about the fact that the tunic that that John is wearing is very similar to Lando's outfit in Cloud City.
Yeah, he's of the same tailor brand or something.
Well, this is stuff that he found on the ship, right? Because
that's
it's
true.
not what he was wearing before. This is stuff that was of the pirate ship.
Yeah, I'm sure it was freshly laundered before it was put away, too.
So here's something you'll find very
They just pulled this off a dead body.
Yeah.
So
Skeleton.
this came off a skeleton.
Like this guy back here.
Yes.
So I read a really good article today, Dave, that you'd appreciate, that David Collins did when they were making the sounds for the little creature in 33's eye. They sampled the monkey from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Nice.
Interesting.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's classic things, and you want, especially I think on this, you want this to harken back to other things that you've seen before. Is it so much of the nostalgia? Is it's harkening back? It's Goonies. It's E.T. It's
anything pirate related, and it's
Yeah.
big time Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie series, but it's also beyond that, like into what they used as inspiration, I'm sure, of the serials and things like that.
the serials, but it's the ride. Is they went straight
well,
back.
there's
to
elements from that
not
as
even
well, for sure.
The movies is the ride.
And multi-layers.
Liberty's like right there. It's the head canon as those clothes came off of Captain Renaud.
Yeah, that's a great, like she said earlier, the nod to Richard Donner there with the name.
Funny, the windows on the live action set are curved.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
Uh-oh.
They're not curved on the model.
Dag nabbit.
I mean, it's slab sided. The cockpit was slab sided, but it's kind of interesting because it has a ring in the front, and that's on the model too. And then there's a window mullion on the sides that's not on the live action. And
So is there
what's that?
I was going to say, is there a whole subreddit where people have been up in arms about that?
This is John Knowles. John Knowles looking at the model. He goes, "That's not there," and I'm like, "Well, it's on the render, so it's there." That's a Ahsoka ship. I added an extra mullion on top of the cockpit, and the toys have come out. There's a really nice one that's 14 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
That I think Jazzwares makes, and it came out. And there's a die-cast one that Hot Wheels makes, and they don't have this mullion that goes over the top of the cockpit. But it's there on the model, but it's not there on the digital one.
That's
they went off the digital.
So, what they borrowed from, right? Yeah.
Well, I had to go back and look. I'm like, is that mullion on this? That's on the phone model.
So do you have anything to do with these pleasure barges, or is that just all digital? I'm sure it was far away enough it wouldn't have to be anything but digital. But.
Yeah, I wish that we did more stuff, but it's usually the time frame is tight.
Yeah.
We're lucky we can get the one
of these guys.
Well, I imagine the time frame's even tighter on the shows than it would be on like a feature.
It's better on the shows, but but it's only me and Dan. We don't have a team that we can. Let's put everybody. Let's get everybody involved.
Right, all hands on deck.
Yeah, it's just me and Dan doing it. So we need the extra time to just make up for the lack of people.
Nah.
There
goes the frozen Spencer has dropped out again, so he'll be back shortly. But he has sketchy. There he comes. He has sketchy internet access at times, so we bear with it. There he is.
Hello there.
Hi. So I love the fact that like this. I mean, when they get onto their planet, it's almost like Cloud City, where they're getting the escort, right to the landing pad.
Definitely that.
But it's almost like it's almost like Tortuga capacity.
It's a very different kind of planety too. We're getting an ice planet, but it's not barren Hoth. It's very mountainous and lakes. And is this whole show is really parts falling off.
And more dirt falling off. It's very much a resort, like ski resort style.
Yeah, it's Space Aspen.
Yeah, there you go. And then these guys they have complete, rebel trooper vibes with those helmets. This is a funny kind of misdirect.
So one of the things I loved about these kids, it reminded me of that scene from Hook when the kids are trying to sneak in to get the baseball game.
Yeah, it's just the levels of ridiculousness of how we're going to sneak around. Like, look, we've got some Jawa robes on board or something.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I love how Wim has that kind of cloak thing over his face that gives him like Davy Jones vibes directly from Pirates of the Caribbean with that hat. He's got that kind of tentacle thing almost going on.
Yeah.
But very more subtly. It's like a Disney bound version of Davy Jones.
Right.
Ooh.
So I assume that there is a large.
The lady who met up with them was actually in Better Call Saul. But there
you go. Just happens to like that knife.
Hey, might as well carry it with them instead of having them hold on to it for them.
So, John, I assume for shots like this, there's a large piece of practical, like the landing gear or something. Do you know did they build that from the model or from the digital, or
they tend to build it from the digital? But I know that they built a ramp for the Razor Crest, and they used the digital as the reference for it, and there was no way you could walk down it. So they had to totally play around with proportions to make it so that
right.
So there's generally almost always is traditional in science fiction that the live action parts don't match the miniature part almost ever. The interiors never fit inside. So it's like these are just kind of these givens. It's like this stuff it never fits.
Everything has to be compromised. I love how the restraining bolt kept me from killing like 3 people already. SM-33, I should say.
No, that's me. It's the same thing.
It gets a little out of hand
how
here.
many years did it take for them to actually give like a plausible explanation of the interior of the Falcon? And I don't overly buy the arrangement that they've got now. Like, oh, well, this is the hold and the thing, and you go through 3 different rooms to get to it. It's like, that's an awful small cargo hold. And wait,
You know what's interesting is that when we were doing, I don't know which one of the prequels it was, but it was the Federation battleship. The concept for it, there was like a donut version of it, and there was like a flying saucer version of it. And that weekend when the models were built, Independence Day came out, and so when the art department met, George was like, "Flying saucers are out," so it became the donut. and so then we're looking at the donut, and he said, "Well, what if it had claws and there could be a ball that fit in the center of it?" I'm like,
Right.
Yeah. And he said something about the Falcon. And he and I are we're on our knees on either side of this little table with this disc, this donut thing sitting there. And I said, "Well, how does the Falcon work?" And so he explained his version of the Falcon. I thought, holy shit, I've been wondering about this forever. And I got George.
Nice.
So what he said that you got the upper and lower mandibles, they tilt up till they're level. Oh. Then the containers come in, the rails on the insides of the mandibles, the containers come in, they go into the ship, and then they move off to the right, and they're stored radially. Nothing has ever shown that. That's out of George Lucas's mouth. And I'm like,
wow.
So when people show diagrams of the Falcon, I'm like, yeah, I know what it's supposed to look like. But anyway.
We need to sit him down and have him draw up some legit plans.
I just couldn't believe. I was like, holy shit, I've been wondering about this for years, and George Lucas is explaining it. This is amazing.
So
there we go. Prequel language.
Yeah, Slamo. She's been in some other properties Disney related, I believe.
I love the very piratey hat.
Yeah, they've lent a lot to the costuming of this. That is very sort of pirate-esque. See, there's more clues to as like sort of isolated they are with them using the term wizard, whereas nowadays slang changes every 5 minutes. It shows that they have an old aesthetic.
Well, they're utilizing it. I was thinking about this the other day. Is that every 10 minutes or so, the kids are saying wizard. It's like the term of the day, like.
Oh, I can't even understand children at this point. I have to stop them. It's like, okay, no, use real language, actual words.
None of this slang.
My daughter told me this one the other day. It's like, those are actual words. And I'm like, okay, no, use them in an actual context that they mean something, not stringing them together however you are. It's like, say less. I don't know what that means. Those are actual words, but stop it.
Made up meanings.
Yes. Sensory gymnasium. The kids even like, oh, we got to go to the spa. The robot's like, oh, let's go to the spa. Oh, let's go to the buffet.
Yeah, that's a good place to search. I love how the feeling of SM-33 is very true, like, because he was, I think, a puppet for most of these shots, I would imagine. And that way he could be in the frame.
Did they mocap Nick Frost for that stuff? Was he involved?
I hadn't heard anything about that specifically. That would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost Spencer again. I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I would imagine maybe for his face to get the movement of the face. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't heard that. When we said that they did that for Neil, that there's
definitely
on that
for Neil.
But then there's also the practical Neil mask. But
right.
Yeah. Yeah, John talked about that a lot, that Legacy made the head and said they over-delivered. It was just amazing what all it could do. But then they had one that the child could wear, they could just put on him. So it wasn't a huge amount of time to get him set up. And so there are a lot of times where they used the practical as much as they could.
Right. But if they needed, like, I guess for the animation of the digital version, they had a rig that he would wear that had cameras on it to get his like facial expressions to apply to the character. I've seen photos.
Liberty's in there. It says Nick Frost did no mocap. He only did the voice.
Okay, that's
And
good.
then Ray. Oh, whoa! There's Ray, the Hut CGI. Getting that better.
It needs to.
I don't know. This CGI of the Hut reminded me a lot of Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, there's Ray.
It's a weird design that
Ray.
Ray's here. Hey, Ray. Oh, we got lots of. I haven't even been paying attention to the chat.
Oh yeah, and then there's you go. That heard that from the Star Wars Sessions interview with Nick Frost. So Troy, I don't know if Professor Gorlox is a thing or not, a callback. I do not know. These would be things that you could check out or ask questions of the Skeleton Crew after show, because those guys actually do research and know things. Not so much.
Yeah,
that's where it comes from. We know what John knows because we know nothing.
And that way we know something. But put in some questions in their chat and they'll get back to you, even though it's not a live episode of the after show, but they'll definitely respond to questions regarding things that they are aware of. This was such a weird reveal.
I thought it was hilarious that 33 is carrying the towels. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that too.
That's pretty hilarious.
Oh, hey.
Look at that. That's like, okay. This is a massive thing.
Oh, there's your
him and that restraining bolt. They don't play well together. Would have been interesting to see if they had actually done a full-size mock-up of that character.
Oh yeah.
If you remember, behind the scenes of Rise of Skywalker, they did the giant snake. That was practical, and then
right, that's true. It's like, why just shut up? Why you give that away? You should have pretended you were elders. Oh, but you got a wrench.
Dave, I was totally waiting for him to say, "Come with me, cupcake."
Well, it kind of looks like that same brewery kind of thing that they're going through. Right. Oh no! Ooh.
And she happens to have a monkey wrench on her.
Bits of this look a lot like I can't even think of the name of the terraces in Yellowstone.
Oh,
the northwest style of Yellowstone, where they've got those like terraces of the thermal pools and stuff like that.
Catholics.
They just sniffs John, and he's like, okay, we can't trust him.
It's such a weird introduction of basically Cthulhu into the Star Wars universe. Not that I don't know if he's been introduced in other characters before, but
I mean, we had Harryhausen's creature in Book of Boba Fett, so it was only a matter of time if we had Cthulhu.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that multi-armed guy, lizard thing.
Now, see, this is the first time that I think I've seen that, like the pirate ship here. It's noticeable that I think that's digital.
Oh, that's funny. It's like button up against the other stuff.
Yeah, it's just like it just appears to be too crisp and nice. Yes, Mammoth Hot Springs, Troy. Exactly.
There you go.
So did anyone else think that because it's a resort that there's not enough parking?
I did not think that, but that is fun and that makes sense.
Yes.
It's like that is
So they
what
did squeeze in there and bumped into some other vehicles as they parked. Oh no.
Ships are cool.
That drop.
More skeletons.
Hey, it's just
see, that's indeed right there. That's Indiana Jones and the
That's
last
very
that's
much
that's
a booby
Goonies.
trap.
That's Chester Cobblepot.
booby
Hmm.
trap.
Yeah. And of course, it's Neil who's stepping on something.
I thought that was the breath of God.
Well, the way they were lowered into that cavern, almost like how they were getting lowered into the caverns in the museum at the church
Hmm.
in Last Crusade.
Uh-huh.
It's funny, that thing about you're saying about the CG ship looked too crisp.
Yeah.
John Favreau a while back, he was looking at the Razor Crest model and he's standing there looking at it. And I'm like, what? And he goes, it looks. And I'm like, what? And he goes, it looks so handmade. And I'm like, yeah, well, it is. And he goes, it looks. And I'm like, what? Better on screen? He goes, yeah. I said, well, it looks better in the dark, moving fast. He goes, well, so do I. He turned around and walked.
Okay, I will disagree right there because the model that you had in San Francisco was amazing, and I could stare at that for hours. Just
And that wasn't even finished. That was like a
Right.
partial build.
That was a pattern, but it had foil over it. And then when it was first done, it was chrome. It was gorgeous. It was amazing, but it had no scale. But it was gorgeous.
Right.
Then I had to match the digital paint job, and I didn't know what the hell to do. And so it was a leap of faith. I took black Rust-Oleum black automotive primer and painted the whole thing black. And then I had these 3M sanding pads in different grits, and I went back and sanded the panels till I revealed. Well,
Just enough.
sprayed it with a Xenolite silver, and then I sanded it down. So it looks really weather beaten. The real one, it looks very, very aged, but it was terrifying. I painted black. I'm like, I hope hell this works.
So it was all sanding, not like using some sort of solvent or something to pull off any of it.
Just hand
Wow.
sanding. That way, it was really important to keep all the sanding marks in different directions. That way, when light hits it, you get that, the panels transition. You get that.
Oh yeah, so it's like, and it probably gives like this panel a little more relief over the other because it's going.
Yeah, you'll see the light dance across the
Catching
surface.
it. Yeah. Wow.
But it looks pretty damn beat. So he's right. It looks pretty rough, but that was the look of the digital paint job. So.
Well, and then even rougher after the Mon Calamari got a hold of it.
Well, then it was cobbled back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
After it got blown up, people were texting me and calling me going, why did they do that? And I'm like, I got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that was a very disturbing moment in The Mandalorian for a lot of people.
I was told it was going to happen before it broadcast by maybe a month. And I was down there on set with Filoni, and I said, look, when Gene Roddenberry wrote Star Trek, the Enterprise is a crew member. Gene Roddenberry was a B-17 captain in World War II. That airplane was the 11th member of that crew.
Oh, yeah.
That's how he saw the Enterprise, as that was a member of the crew. You have killed one of the three crew here in The Mandalorian. And I said, when Harv Bennett came onto Star Trek, that was Star Trek 2, and then on 3, they destroyed the Enterprise. Harv Bennett flew Hueys in Vietnam. You didn't get attached to it. You went out and got whichever one was available, and you flew it. So there was no sentimentality. So for Bennett, it was no big deal to destroy it.
It was a different feel.
Yeah. So I said to Filoni, I said, you have the chance to not make the Harv Bennett mistake and be the smartest people, or you can destroy the ship. And he goes, it's too late.
So did they blow up one of your models for that, or was that CG?
No, that was digital. If you watch that, it looks like a bowl of Jello. It looks like a bowl of napalm getting hit. It's just this big splat of fire.
Right.
Left was the one, throttle knob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When have you ever seen an explosion like if you blow up a helicopter, there's a hulk that's left. It doesn't. as it bits, but it's like everything but this throttle quadrant and this sphere. Okay.
Yeah, it was vaporized or something.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
it
trip.
blew up like a bowl of gasoline. It was interesting to watch it go.
So
splat.
I love this whole segment with when they. Yeah. And all we had left was a Beskar spear and a knob.
Yeah. That's all that survived. And then Spencer froze.
Oh yeah, I love how they're sitting there going like, somebody Liberty just said.
One of the things I
KB
love about the scene.
They're talking about data ports.
He'll catch up someday. This is very,
one thing I
very.
love about the scene yeah. Well, I was gonna say this is very much Aladdin and also National Treasure.
Oh yeah. Well, this is also very
and obviously Goonies.
It's like oh, they're right there. No, leave that. That's Willie's.
I get very much Lucha Libre vibes from that big skull in the background, though. It totally looks like a lucha mask to me. So, is Lucha Libre now canon in Star Wars?
To me, it was Oz.
The Captain's Mark. This is where it starts to get real. I do like that little thing that SM33 has, though, to do that access.
Oh, just like that comes
on the
out
back of his hand right there. It's kind of cool. There it is.
Okay, see, so I talked about this, I think, on the Unifying Force. I don't know that I mentioned it on our last one. Maybe I did. This is so not the way that I thought they were going to go. They have to go through the catacomb and the thing, but all those other planets would have had that room that had all the coordinates to all the other planets on it.
Yeah, we had talked about that. Like when they go to one of those other planets to find the undamaged version of the AT-AT coordinates.
I thought that this was going to be the next few episodes were going to be like a serialized the way season 1 of Mando went. Is we've got to go to this mission. We got to go to this planet. We got to go to that planet, and then just to finally find one that had the coordinates to AT-AT. And this is a very different way to go.
So who's this guy?
Are we going to talk about the fact that they just killed off Urkel with acid?
With the acid, subtly. Well, we didn't see him die on screen.
Yep. Nope. Didn't see a body. Didn't see it happen.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it did quiet everybody out there quite a bit. You can see him totally changing.
Yeah, exactly, Liberty. That's what I figured. Another tower.
Yeah, that's what we were kind of discussing that in the happy hour. That they would have the option of have 8 other planet or 7 other planets to look for, get their coordinates, and then find the coordinates to AT-AT. But
it's the code.
See, Wim should have kept that big gun.
Isn't the code more like guidelines?
Yeah. It's more sort of implied.
Yeah.
So did you see any of these sets? Did you get to be on set for anything, John?
No. The only time I've been down there on set's been on Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. So you do the work and send off your model, and then they shoot it, or?
We shoot the models up here.
Oh, you shoot it. Okay.
Yeah, we shoot them at the Presidio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got a mocap stage there that's about 50 feet square and about 25-foot ceiling height.
Nice.
And so we can fit a 50-foot track in there, kind of from one corner to the other. And John Knoll builds the motion control cameras in his garage.
Right.
So,
yeah, he did that for the. I remember seeing some like behind the scenes of him trying to figure out how to do flybys of the Razor Crest with all that reflective surface and putting in like images around it to kind of replicate like a volume of some sort.
We put all these foam core panels in, and we put projectors down below. And
Right.
It kind of worked. I mean, it's kind of like the super poor man's version of the volumes.
A lot of bouncing of light, basically, right?
Yeah, but it gave us the interactive light kind of the surface, which was what
Nice.
it was.
And at least something to start from. That's so classic right there.
I
With
was
the lightsaber.
no, that bothered me. I was like, no, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Damn it.
Yeah, it's like, how would a kid necessarily know that the switch goes one way versus the other?
I love
which is the emitter end. Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
I wanted him to do it. I wanted him to just at least get the moment. He could be disarmed, but no.
Right. Like he could have pulled it out of his hand and turned it off or something. It was pretty funny though. The way it hit the ground and like popped out of his hand was the part that really made me laugh. This is pretty foreboding. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
And now they're dead.
Dave, do you think he's had a pincher's apparel to save themselves?
Yes, I'd be saved by my pincher's apparel. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And there it is. Another great episode.
Yeah, and another really good cliffhanger ending that they do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's kind of fun with the saber design. A lot of people mentioned it looked a lot like Asavi's build, although I feel it's a little thinner. But very much
I think it's a lot thinner. It seems like one of my the kind of Y saber or Yes sabers or whatever that I think
one of those offshoot brands.
Mm-hmm.
Another great episode. I'm loving the fact that they're averaging 40 minutes per episode lately. So it's a welcome, maybe they're listening. I don't know.
Yeah, that's when they get closer to half hour or less. That's really when it starts to bother me.
Yeah, the second episode was like 32 minutes, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. They did start out with a 48-minute one or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, dropping them together, I think, helped pad that out a little bit, but it still felt really short on that first go round when I first viewed it.
Well, still better than they said initially. Better than what they said initially, that one was going to be 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So
having a 17-minute episode would have been horrible. You can't do that. I think it was a typo. But excellent. Thanks for joining us again, John. It was a lot of fun. Love the stories. Love the insight. Even if you weren't as deeply involved in any of this stuff, your input is amazing.
Yes.
And
I'm glad I can contribute something to it. And I love talking about this stuff, And
well, I mean, my last question is any whispers of an Onyx Cinder toy? Like, I know we have the Lego, but have
I don't know, because that Jazzware stuff, are you seeing those? Because they came out with the Ahsoka ship.
Right.
I mean, I think I've got the Ahsoka ship over there because that, and then it's this same the Mission Fleet series is this one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's funny because I got the ATTE from that series, and it's really good.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's amazing.
Way
so
better
tiny.
Well, it's not that small.
Well, I mean, I'm used to things being in like 3 3/4 inch scale, and that would definitely
or like the Ghost that half of us got.
Yeah, that's the scale. But no, this is an even different scale on this Mission Fleet because there's your
the little mini
Mando that's slightly larger than minifigure.
Yeah,
right.
These are all like this big for these, but the Ahsoka ship they did, it is really, really well done. I mean, they really model. It's digital model. It's beautiful. There's a couple of things I took off of it and did a little bit of touch up on it, but Christ, you could shoot it. You know, it's that good.
Right.
I will say that one of the highlights for me when I did the tour of ILM was actually seeing your Razor Crest and your Ahsoka ship on the mount as part of the tour.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's nice to have them out. I hope that they're going to put the Skeleton Crew ships out right now. They have a big display case that's down by the ILM store,
Right.
where the coffee is, and it's in there. They've got some of the costumes and a couple of the props. So
Nice.
It's in there. I don't know if they have a case big enough for it to go into after that. I wish they'd put the light cruiser on display. That thing is really complicated. I looked at that thing. I took it to Anaheim and I was looking at it. I'm like, I don't know how the hell we got this done. So complicated. But yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have it out where people can appreciate it, I think, as opposed to just on screen.
Well, the best part is it's not at my house anymore.
Well, that's true. Free up some garage space there for you to work.
Yeah. Go.
Off with you.
Well, it's like how long did you have that one piece of the Enterprise in your house? Like it was like almost forever.
Are you talking about the Next Generation Enterprise?
Yeah.
I had that one. I probably had that one for about 4 years. That was the 4-foot filming model that was just in very poor condition, and I had to refurbish it. And that I would look at it and just go, no, I'm not going to touch that. It was such a mess. I'm like, I don't know where to start. So yeah, when that one left, it was like, thank God it's gone. Yes.
It's like, let someone else have to refurbish and restore that.
Well, it's all fixed. It's all fixed and it's gone. So but it was just like such a relief to have it not be here.
Right.
What's up, Juan? And happy birthday, sir.
He's joining us late, but yes, happy birthday. All right. Did Spencer freeze up again? He does
That's how that works.
He looks frozen. Oh, there he's back.
Yeah. Oh, that's but I know where we were, but I also want to once again congratulate John in becoming the last inductee of 2024 into our Hall of Fame.
Thank you for your time and again, all the stories and insights you give us when we do have you on, or we're in person at ILM. That was an amazing talk that you and Hal had done. It was awesome just to be part of it.
I was going to stand back and let Hal just do that. I was going to act like it wasn't. Somebody caught on.
The funny thing about that. So here's the funny thing about that. Hal kept on saying beforehand, he's like, I got nothing to say. It's all going to be Goodson. Like, I'll just stand there. And
you both were like, and it was 45 minutes later that.
Well, it's so easy to talk about, and I've been working on Star Wars for maybe off and on for probably 15 to 17 years, something like that, between the prequels, the special editions, and then the TV shows. It's been like there's just so much, and and there's been an evolution of the whole process, and it's really fascinating to me now that we're doing these TV shows. We've been doing them for several years, but I remember when I got to ILM, I got there in August of '88, and Jedi had come out in '83, so this is 5 years later, and Star Wars was dead. And nobody talked about it. And we had an annual meeting, and you could ask George questions anonymously. And it would always come up in the meeting, are we going to do more Star Wars? And he would always say, well, maybe 10 or 15 years from now. And that was always the answer. And then I got told at some point, somebody on the inside said, we're going to make 3 more. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, you'll hear. And then it became official. We did the prequels. But, now you look at it, Star Wars is this active thing. But, there was a period there after, for a number of years where it was just nothing.
Do you think it was the plan it was that big of a break because the technology wasn't there to do what he wanted to do?
We could do it, and they were making them before. You could tell the stories, but I think probably.
I think he wanted to advance his technique along with the storytelling.
Yeah, he also might have just wanted a break.
It
could have been that too.
Yeah, super stressful to put those 3 movies together, and his life changed, got divorced. I mean, it's like a lot of strain there. So
we're eternally grateful, and with the only thing we always talk about here on the Virtual Cantina Network is, we look at those 16 years as, the dark times, but now we don't have to wait for exactly. We don't have to wait for Star Wars ever again. Like this is like,
and it's still too long.
Yeah. We're very, very excited about that. But once again, John, thank you so much. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure not only having you on the show a number of times this year, but once again, like having you basically go on the road with us. I mean, Nashville was a lot of fun having you and Lauren telling your stories and, chatting with people over at our Bunta event.
That was fun. That was a great show. Yeah, I enjoyed it. But it was so, man, I was there and gone so fast.
Yeah.
In and out.
Yeah. I mean, getting up the next morning, it was 4:30 California time. I'm like, dear God, we were back in California before 10. And Lauren and I staring at each other like,
Wow.
let's go we got breakfast.
Yeah. But once again, thank you so much. We look forward to our future episodes and events that we're planning in the near future on that. But want to plug quickly before we get out tonight is next Wednesday on the first of the year, tickets go on sale for the Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition in Chiba, Japan. Only 100 tickets are going to be released at 9 a.m. Eastern. I know people who are staying up all night to get those tickets, so better get them. Don't forget also it's brought to you by Hyperspace Props. For all your sabak and cosplay needs, use the code NSVCSE for 10% off your purchase. I just ordered the Kessel Sabak set. I am very excited for when that arrives. And I'll have to do an unboxing of my stuff and a bunch of other credits and other doodads. Dave, what else is going on in the network?
Well, like I said, this week it's a little bit of a break week because we have a fifth Sunday. So fifth Sunday, there's no Jedi Archives. There's no Unifying Force. But you will be able to see very shortly coming up is the Skeleton Crew after show with Mike, John, and Bryce. That's where they're going to do the deep dive into everything, and some of these questions that were asked here might be answered. Is should I know this name? Is this person a thing? Where did this come from? Is that part of the larger Star Wars lore? They will reveal that sort of thing. But then of course, we still have coming up on Monday, Clone Wars Revisited. We'll have their regularly scheduled show. And as always on Tuesday, come join us in the Zoom if you can. We are going to be here talking about all the things.
And also don't forget
next week's episode.
Yeah. Yep, and next week's episode. But also it's our annual end of the year happy hour. So it's always a great one. We have to traditionally join us, but join us last year to talk about all the shenanigans that went down in 2024. We can promise you even more shenanigans in 25, especially with Celebration coming up.
And on New Year's Day, the Year in Review show drops.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, we don't have that schedule handy. We should have had that one ready to show.
Well, that's what Wednesday thing, a Sunday thing, a Sunday schedule.
Yes, exactly.
But anything you want to close out with tonight, Jeff?
No, look forward to next week. John, you were amazing as always. We look forward to any time we get to spend time listening to things you have to say about any number of properties that you've worked on. So really appreciate it, and hope you had a great holiday. Hope you have a great new year.
Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure. I really do enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
So I was always worried if we got anything to contribute.
Oh, always.
Well, yep. So, all righty.
Dave, anything you want to close out with?
Very happy that I got to be on this time with John. I think we're gonna have to watch some Star Trek again in the future because
Dave's got a million questions.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
No, we're gonna do it. The funny thing is, we're putting the schedule together, and there was one episode that Dave knew he could not be on. He's like, "Well, it better not be Goodson's because I'm still pissed off that I missed off the last one."
Yes, reschedule. All right. Great.
Yeah. Once again, John, thank you so much for joining us. And once again, congratulations on joining our illustrious Hall of Fame.
Thank you
Have
very
to
much.
Get your trophy in person soon.
Yeah. So we're going to ship that up. We'll talk about that in the after show. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to join us next week when fight coordinators Nick Bensman will be joining us for episode 6, which is actually directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, which is going to be a lot of fun
Nice.
for that episode as well. So once again, from the Amigos and from Mr. Goodson, we'd like to say happy holidays and may the force be with you.
Always.
May the force be with you.